Hi, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Books and Beaches. So believe it or not, it is already time to talk about August's new release books. And yeah, I can't believe it. I have no idea where time has gone this summer. I have definitely fallen behind on filming, on reading, and I know I've said that a lot this summer. It has just been a summer of, I have no idea where time has gone. Reading has taken a little bit of a backseat this summer, and filming has taken a little bit of a backseat this summer, and that's okay. We all kind of go through, those seasons of life. I, have a few new things in my life right now that are taking more of a priority, and that's okay. I picked up a few new hobbies, and I have a new person currently in my life. And that's kind of all I'll say about that. But, just know that it is definitely a happy thing. And I am just struggling to kind of find the time to balance everything. And so, I am going to hopefully, stick with things here. And like I said, I know I have said that several times this summer. But yeah, I'm going to work on finding the best balance that I can. But yeah, my goal is it will hopefully from here on out be at least one video a week, but we shall see. But regardless, you are here for the new releases coming out in August. And this summer is not slowing down when it comes to new releases. You best grab a drink, you best grab a snack, because we have a lot of books to talk about. I was finding it very, very hard to cut myself off when it comes to what books I wanted to talk about. So be prepared. We've got 4 release dates in August, and they are jam-packed. So let's jump in. All right, our first release date in August is August 6th. And like I said, we got a ton of books. As always, I'm gonna try to keep this short and sweet, because we've got so many books to talk about. So I've got my computer here in front of me, so I am going to pull these up. And I will always have them linked below if you want to check out, more about them. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, August really kind of seems to be the month of sequels and debuts. So the first one I have here is And So I Roar, and this is by, I think it's either Abby or Abby, Dare or Dar. I could be getting that wrong, but this is going to be the woman that wrote The Girl with the Louding Voice. Now, I did not read that book. I have heard a lot of people talk about it, and I have heard good things, but I believe either this is a sequel to that one, but it does say it's just the new novel. So I'm wondering if it is a sequel or not, but let's see here. I don't think it's a sequel. I just think it's her second book. So it says, when Tia accidentally overhears a whispered conversation between her mother, terminally ill and lying in a hospital bed in Port Harcourt, Nigeria, and her aunt, the repercussions will send her on a desperate quest to uncover a secret her mother has been hiding for nearly 2 decades. And so it also looks like we might have a perspective from a 14-year-old runaway back in her home. And so yeah, lots of choices are going to be made. And it says they may transform, I think it's Ikati, into a place where girls are allowed to claim the bright futures they deserve and shout their stories to the world. So yeah, like I said, I've heard good things about the first book, but I haven't read it yet. So, but this one sounds like it could be very good as well. All right. Next is also another sequel, and this is a book that I also have not read the first one, but this is the sequel to The Assistant and the Villain, and this one is called The Apprentice to the Villain, and this is by Hannah Cole. I think it's Mayer. So, ooh, and this one on Amazon is featuring sprayed edges. Love a good sprayed edges. I don't want to read too much into this one because it is the sequel. And for those of you that haven't read the first one, I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah, I don't want to say too much. So it says, oh, and it does say they are best enjoyed in order. So I won't say too much, but if you like the first one, just know the second one is coming out on this date. As many of you probably already know, we have The House of Glass coming out by Sarah Pekkanen. This one I do believe was an early release by Book of the Month. I didn't happen to pick it up, but you were probably able to get it a whole month early, but this one is coming out on August 6th. And it says this is going to be, you know, her next thrilling novel. Looks like, oh, I like this tagline. On the outside, they were the golden family with the perfect life. On the inside, they built the perfect lie. A young nanny who plunged to her death, or was she pushed? A 9-year-old girl who collects sharp objects and refuses to speak. A lawyer whose job it is to uncover who in the family is a victim and who is a murderer. But how can you find out the truth when everyone here is lying? That's all I need to know. Sounds great. And actually, I'm kind of kicking myself for not picking that one up with Book of the Month. So when I go to look for my books in August, may have to end up adding that one to my box. All right, next up, we have The Chamber from Will Dean. Now, I know Will Dean has been hit or miss for a lot of people. I have not picked up his more popular one, or more talked about one, because I know it was hit or miss for a lot of people. It was kind of always on my radar. But this one says it's going to be And Then There Were None meets The Last Breath in this tense and suspenseful locked room thriller. I do always like a locked room thriller that takes place inside a hyperbaric chamber. Ooh, that's interesting. So it says 6 experienced saturation divers are locked inside a hyperbaric chamber. Calm and professional, they know that rapid decompression could be fatal, and so they work in shifts, breathing helium and surviving in hot, close quarters. Then one of them is found dead in his bunk. Kind of all I want to know. So, like I said, I've heard hit or miss things about Will Dean, but if you're interested, more information will be linked below. All right, another author that I have not picked up anything from, but I hear this name quite frequently on BookTube, and this is T. Kingfisher. This is A Sorceress Comes to Call. Now, this one says it's going to be a dark reimagining of the Brothers Grimm's The Goose Girl, which I have never heard of. Rife with secrets, murder, and forbidden magic. So definitely, I think more on like the fantasy side of things. But yeah, let's see. And it's being quoted as Kingfisher never fails to dazzle. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what that retelling will be like, but that one will be linked below if you want to check out more. And I'll probably say that a lot, even though you already know that. All right, we also have a book by an author that I know I have some books on my shelf, but I haven't picked them up yet. But this has been a popular pick for Book of the Month, I think, for sure. And this is The Seventh Veil of Salome, and this is by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And it says, a young woman wins the role of a lifetime in a film about a legendary heroine, but the real drama is behind the scenes in this sumptuous historical epic. So it says we're going to be based in 1950s Hollywood. Every actress wants to play, I think it's Salmone, the star-making role in a big budget movie about the legendary woman whose story has inspired artists since ancient times. But so I think, you know, two actresses are gonna kind of like battle it out a little bit, it looks like. But it says, before the curtain comes down, there will be tears and tragedy aplenty in this sexy Technicolor saga. So could be kind of a, you know, an interesting like historical drama. So, all right, next up, now this is a debut, and I always like to look into debuts because you never know when you're going to come across something that, you know, might be truly amazing. And this is The Truth According to Ember, and this is by Danica Nava. And it says, a Chickasaw woman who can't catch a break serves up a little white lie that snowballs into much more in this witty and irresistible rom-com. So I had just read a book, all based on, Native American culture. And so I thought, what a unique way to feature a debut author that may also feature, some Native American culture in it. So I wanted to feature that one on the list. After that, we have another debut. Like I said, this is the month of sequels and debuts. And this is Plays Well with Others, and this is by Sophie Brickman. And I believe I heard about this one from Brittany at Rescues and Reads. And there was a couple on this list I had heard about from her. And this says, this is going to be a wickedly funny incisive, I believe, debut novel following a mother trapped in the rat race of NYC, parenting as her life unravels. And I believe as I was reading through this, it says, it takes a village, just not this one, which made me laugh. But it says it's a shimmering epistolary, so, told in multiple different ways, incorporating emails, group text, advice columns, newspaper profiles, and more. It's going to be whip smart, genuinely funny, a romp through minefield of modern motherhood. But beneath is a fast-paced, satirical veneer, and she's going to give us a fresh, open-hearted, all too real take on what it means to be a parent. Fierce love, craziness, and all. So I kind of like that take on it. So definitely thought that would be a great one to add to the list. This next one, now I had not seen this one until I kind of just I go through a lot of NetGalley's list to see, what else is coming out. And this one caught my eye almost last minute. And this is The Rule of Three by Sam Ripley. And this one is quoted as the Whisper Man meets the paranoia of the Blair Witch Project. And it says it's going to be a terrifying suspense thriller about an urban legend coming true. And I was like, what? So, and it says, that's the one, that's the girl that's going to die. Now, if you know me, with thrillers, it doesn't take a lot to catch my attention. And, it says, bad things always happen in threes, they say. And they are right, because it's happening again. But this time the curse is coming for me, and worst of all, it's coming for you too. So there's more there. I didn't want to read too much into it, and it just sounded really good. So I added it to the list. One that I actually believe, I have a copy of it somewhere down here, because I believe I won it through a Goodreads giveaway. But this is The Last Light Over Oslo, and this is by Alex Rickloff. And that says it's going to be based on true events. It is the gripping historical novel set in Norway and Sweden in 1940, and it's following one of the first female U.S. ministers, Daisy Herman, and her niece as the two are unexpectedly caught up in the German invasion of Norway. So, kind of a nice historical fiction, one that I needed to add to the list, especially because I already have a copy of it. So that was an exciting, Goodreads giveaway. After that, one that I had off of NetGalley, so I believe this one is a YA pick, and this is called Silent Sister, and this is by Megan David Hizar, I believe. And this said, it is the suspense novel of the summer about a mysterious sister's disappearance, her biggest betrayal, and a deadly truth screaming to come out. And as you know, with thrillers, I don't want to know too much more, so there's that. We also have just a couple more. A very popular author. I don't believe I've read her series before yet, but this is Death at Morning House, and this is by Maureen Johnson, YA once again. But she wrote the Truly Devious books, and it says this is going to be a standalone YA about a teen who uncovers a mystery while working as a tour guide on an island and must solve it before the history repeats itself. So I don't want to read too much more into it. Like I said, these descriptions are always linked in below if you do like knowing a little bit more, but especially when it comes to my YA thrillers, I really don't like to read the descriptions because I think they give away too much. So, and last but certainly not least that I found coming out on August 6th is 0 stars, do not recommend. I think that's funny, it's so funny, by MJ Wasmer. And this is says, it was even quoted by Grady Hendrix, which I think is funny. And it says, White Lotus meets Kevin Wilson in this whip-smart social satire about a man who finds himself trapped on an island resort after the sun explodes. Interesting. And suddenly must choose whether to save himself from the chaos or help the fellow guests make it off the island alive. So I thought just kind of a different one to add to the list. Why not? So those are all the books that I found coming out on August 6th. All right, so our next release date is August 13th. And once again, this is a very, very packed release date. And this may not be everything. These are just the ones that caught my eye. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the very first one that I have here is The Housekeeper's Secret, and this is by Iona Gray. And whew, I feel like I've been talking a lot already. We have duty, desire, and deception reside under one roof. So it looks like we are going to be based in Northern England at Coldwell Hall. We have our main character, Katie Furness, I believe. And she's a housekeeper. So it looks like we're going to be based in the summer of 1911. And she's going to basically be in a love affair with the new footman. And it's going to be told in alternating timelines from the sun-drenched summer of the Edwardian Age to the mud-filled trenches of World War I. So it's a world of romance, the truths we hold on to, and the past we must let go. So I thought it was kind of an interesting one in a little bit of a genre that I don't tend to feature as much. So I wanted to add it to this list. All right, after that, we have a book that I have so highly been anticipating since I heard it was coming out, and I may have screamed when I realized I got the ebook of this one on NetGalley. I was so excited. So excited, and I actually started it last night. Yeah, I screamed. And this is Worst Case Scenario by TJ Newman. So if you have not picked up a book by TJ Newman yet, you need to. Now, if you are traveling anywhere in an airplane, don't pick up any of TJ Newman's books. But if you're not planning on getting on an airplane anytime soon, I highly recommend them. So this is her third book coming out, and it says, when a pilot suffers a heart attack at 35,000 feet, a commercial airliner filled with passengers crashes into a nuclear power plant in the small town of Wauketa, Minnesota, which becomes ground zero for a catastrophic national crisis with global implications. Now, I am not going to read too much more into this because, like I said, I just started it last night. But when I did start it, there is an author's note right at the beginning, and it won't spoil much of anything. Such an interesting author's note. Now, TJ Newman used to be a flight attendant. I don't believe she is anymore because she's writing. But she talked about the process of how she's come up with the ideas of her writing, and she was asking pilots like what their worst case scenarios were, and one of them was this idea. So I cannot wait to pick this one up. And like I said, August 13th. So there's that one. All right, another one that the name caught me because I feel like my mom has read these books before. We have a new book coming out from Danielle Steele, and this is called Joy. Now, it says, in this deeply moving novel, it's going to be a determined young woman must survive a series of abandonments to find a love that is worthy of her. So, I have not read, I don't think, any Danielle Steele, but I know very, very popular author. So when I saw this title, I knew I had to add it to the list. I won't read too much more into it, but the information will be there if you would like it. We also have a book coming out from a popular author from what I've heard or researched into. I know I haven't read anything, but this is Lady Macbeth, and this is by Ava Reed. So it says, it's going to be the reimagining of Lady Macbeth, Shakespeare's most famous villainesses, giving her a voice, a past, and a power that transforms the story men have written for her. What a unique idea. Yeah, it says, the lady knows the stories, how her eyes induce madness in men. The lady knows she will be wed to the Scottish brute, who does not leave his warrior ways behind when he comes to the marriage bed. There's a lot, no, but there's a lot here. But anyways, I don't know, just thought it was a very unique idea. And I guess Ava Reid is very well known, but if you have read her before, let me know in the comments below. So there's that. All right, after that, one that I thought looked a little bit more fun and lighthearted was The Breakup Pact, and this is by Emma Lord. And it does say it's on several most anticipated reads lists. This one is going to be two best friends who haven't spoken in 10 years, interesting, pretend to date after breakups with their respective exes go viral in this delightfully fun and deeply emotional novel from New York Times bestseller Emma Lord. So, interesting premise. I think we've seen this premise before, but who doesn't love, kind of a fake dating trope that many of us will probably be able to predict where it goes, but those are some of those light, fun-hearted books we like to pick up. So there's that. All right, now this one caught my eye, and I feel like I've heard of it before, but then when I went to put it on my list, I was like, well, how did I not remember this was coming out? And this is I Need You to Read This, and this is by Jessa Maxwell. And, oh, I know this name. She wrote The Golden Spoon. Now, I have not read The Golden Spoon. They read it for one of the BookTube Besties retreats, and I just didn't end up picking it up because I ran out of time. But this says it's going to be a sly and addictive new mystery about an advice columnist searching for answers about her predecessor's murder. So this one could get interesting. It says her most important letter might be her last. So, I don't know. This might be one that I have to pick up. So there's that one. But I know a lot of people had heard about The Golden Spoon, so I figured that one might be a little bit more popular. All right, after that, I had just hauled a book by this author, and so when this one came up, this name caught my eye, and this is Till Death Do Us Part, and this is by Lori Elizabeth Flynn. Now, she wrote The Girls Are Also Nice Here, which, like I said, I had just hauled not too long ago. And this is going to be a thriller set in the vineyards of Napa Valley, and that asks, what happens when the husbands you thought died years ago shows up alive? That's all I want to know. And I'll say it once and say it again. When it comes to my thrillers, I don't want to know too much, but that's such a good question, to start off a summary with. So I don't want to know too much more. So we have that one. All right, after that, another thriller, surprise, surprise. We have The Stranger at the Wedding, and this is by A.E. Gauntlet. Now this says, before love at first sight, there were things no one saw. Interesting. So it says, this book will make you think twice before saying I do. Now it looks like it says Annie never much believed in love, that is, until meeting Mark. After crossing paths on morning commutes, they connected a group counseling session for trauma survivors. Each recognizes something in the other, although they both hide their own troubled pasts. It's a whirlwind romance that propels Annie through their courtship all the way to their wedding day, a day she couldn't have predicted for herself once upon a time, yet now feels sure about that anything in her life. But as she stands at the altar, casting her eyes over the row of well-wishers, she spots a stranger in the crowd, and she soon learns that her new life isn't going to be the happy ever after she thought she had planned. Who is the stranger at the wedding? What really happened to Mark's first wife? And was Annie and Mark's meeting as random as it first appeared, or is something more sinister at work? So, yeah, that one definitely caught my eye. So, who knows what will happen? All right, after that, we have another debut. Like I said, August and debuts and, series. There we go. So this is Society of Lies, and this is by Lauren Ling Brown. And the reason this one caught me, this is actually quoted by Julia Bartz, and this says, it's a dark and haunting debut that explores secret societies, the bonds of sisterhood, and the intricacies of privilege at an elite college. So we're looking at maybe some dark academia here. So it says, how far would you go to belong? It's a really good question. I believe this is going to be set at Princeton. So, yeah, looks like, you know, every clue is leading Maya back to the past and to the secret she's been keeping all those years. So I think a lot of secrets, possibly some people that turn up dead. Love a good like dark academia like that. So added that one to the list. All right, after that we have another YA release, and this is Under the Surface, and this is by Diana Urban. And it says it's going to be an epic survival thriller about 4 teens who get lost in the Paris catacombs. Place I would love to visit, but at the same time, super creepy. For days, a gripping and propulsive story of love, danger, betrayal, and hope, even when all seems lost. So, don't want to know too much more, but very, very interesting. Especially since, like, now the Olympics are going to be set in Paris, so very interesting timing. All right. One that is a series release, and this is book 4, so I won't be going into too much what this one is about, but if you are fans of the Flesh and Fire series, book Born of Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout, this book is coming out. So this is book 4 in that series. So I will not read too much into that one. I don't want to spoil anything. But like I said, this is book 4 in that series coming out on the 13th. After that, we have book number 2 in a series. Like I said, series, lots of them. Excuse me. And this is Hemlock House by Katie Contugno. I always say her name wrong. This is Katie Contugno. This is actually one of 2 books she's got coming out this month, but this is the sequel to Liar's Beach, excuse me. I have Liar's Beach and I haven't read it yet. So I don't want to read too much into this one, but it looks, I think this is like the follow-up. So it says, last summer there was a murder on Martha's Vineyard, which I believe is Liar's Beach. And so now a killer's on campus in Cambridge. So I think that's this book. So I would assume you'd want to read them in order, but it's going to be like the follow-up story. So there's that one. All right. Then we have a book that caught my eye after I was doing a little bit of research. And this is Through the Midnight Door. And this is by Katrina Moore. And it says 3 sisters, 3 keys, 3 unspeakable horrors. It says, the Finch sisters once spent long, hot summers exploring the dozens of abandoned properties littering their dying town, until they found an impossible home with an endless hall of doors, and 3 keys waiting for them. Curious, fearless, they stepped inside their chosen rooms, and experienced horrors they never dared speak of again. Now, years later, one of the sisters was discovered dead, and they're kind of just like struggling with it. And it says this book is it's emotional, it's haunting, and it is going to explore the sometimes fragile bonds of sisterhood and the way deeply rooted trauma can pass from generation to generation. So that one caught my eye for sure. And it was one that I don't think I've heard of this author before, and I really hadn't heard of that book before. So there's that. Another one that I believe I heard Brittany from Rescues and Reads talk about was Clickbait, and this is by Holly Baxter. And I believe, if I'm remembering right, I think this, was a debut. And so this says it's going to be dark comedy and sharp observations. It's a whip smart and laugh out loud funny debut about a disgraced, newly divorced journalist demoted to a clickbait job at a Manhattan tabloid. So it says, first thing they tell you when you begin your training is to never become the news. So yeah, we will see. But like I said, I think Brittany talked about it a little bit more in her video, but it just sounded interesting and I wanted to add it to the list. So, and I like to diversify these as much as I can. So after that, we have another, what I believe is a rom-com coming out, and that is Enemies to Lovers. And this is by Laura Jane Williams. And it says the best love hangover cure, forced proximity on a summer family vacation in Greece. I mean, what a better setting than that? So, sounds like, you know, some of our typical tropes that we're used to dealing with, but I just love throwing a good rom-com on here to kind of, you know, mix it up a bit, especially with all of the thrillers that I like to select. So there's that one. And then last but certainly not least, for the books that I found coming out on August 13th is The Group Trip, and this is by Audrey Ingram. And it says Firefly Lane meets Happy Place, which I have not read Firefly Lane, but I did love Happy Place. In this Southern set novel about what it means to grow up together, hopefully without growing apart. And it's going to be told between dual timelines. It's going to paint a stunning portrait of friendship, and it's made for friends, like fans of Christie, Woods, and Harvey. So I think it caught my eye, kind of because of the Southern setting and the dual point of view settings. So, and it's got a beach picture on the cover, so caught my eye. But those are all the books that I found coming out on August 13th. All right, we've made it to our third release date in August, and that is August 20th. So lists are getting a little bit shorter as the dates go on here, but we still got quite a few books. So the very first one is probably a most anticipated book for a lot of people, and this is By Any Other Name by Jodi Picoult. And this one says it's a novel about two women centuries apart, one of whom is the real author of Shakespeare's plays, who are both forced to hide behind another name. So basically, I think we are getting a timeline in 1581, which would be the woman who, actually wrote Shakespeare's plays. But it looks like we're going to get intertwining timelines. But it says it's going to be a sweeping tale of ambition, courage, and desire, centering two women who are determined to create something beautiful despite the prejudices they face. Should a writer do whatever it takes to see her story live on, no matter the cost? This remarkable novel, rooted in primary historical sources, ensures the name Amelia Bassano will no longer be forgotten. So I'm wondering if this is going to be like historically accurate. So it's a good question to look into. But I know a lot of people are looking forward to that one because it's Jodi Picoult. So after that, we have another one that I think a lot of people are probably looking forward to. And this is a book by Karen Slaughter. And This Is Why We Lied. And this is part of the Will Trent series. I believe this is book 12. Now, I have not read any of the Will Trent books. I have read Karen Slaughter before, but not part of this series. Now, I don't want to spoil anything. I don't know if these books build upon each other. So if you have read them, let us know in the comments below. But I do believe they all surround around the same. I think Will Trent is our investigator. So yeah, so this will be book 12 coming out on August 20th. So all right, after that we have another book in a series. This is book 3, and this is Wisteria by Adeline Grace, and this is book 3 in the Belladonna series. So once again, I don't want to really reveal too much about this book if you have not read this series yet. I believe this is a YA series. And I do believe it is going to be the conclusion, because it does say here it is going to be the conclusion. And it says it is going to have dramatic twists. So I don't want to read too much more into it, and I don't want to say too much more just because I haven't read it and just in case it spoils anything for anyone else. So that is there for you. All right, after that, we have a book by an author that I really, really enjoy reading, and she writes in so many different genres, and I think that's amazing. And this is You Will Never Be Me by Jessie Q. Santanto. And it says, when cracks start forming in an influencer's curated life, she finds out that jealousy is just as viral as a video in this riveting suspense novel. So I have loved Jessie Q. Santanto for her YA books, for her Dial A for Auntie series, and her thrillers. So we're getting another, thriller suspense book. So I don't want to read too much more, but I can't wait because she does so well in so many different genres. So that one will be linked below, as always. All right, we have another book by an author that I know is also very, very popular, although I don't believe I have read anything either. And this is Spirit Crossing, and this is by William Kent Krieger. This looks like it is also part of a series. Like I said, August is the time for series. This is actually book 20 of the Cork O'Connor mystery series. So I'm wondering too if this is another investigator series. So yeah, I don't want to read too much into this just in case these also build on top of each other. But yeah, so if you are interested in William Kent Krieger and this series, here's book 20 for you. So there is that. All right, another one. Once again, as a part of a series, this is My Salty Mary, and this is by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. This is part of the My Lady Jane series. I read the very first book, My Lady Jane, with my book club not too long ago. Maybe last year? Maybe the year before. So I guess it was a little bit longer ago, but it was okay. It wasn't necessarily my style, but I think this is book 6, if I believe. Oh, and actually now it's a streaming series too, if you're interested. So I don't want to read too much into this. But yeah, it looks like this is going to be book 6. Yeah, and I don't want to give too many details, but if this is a series you're interested, like I said, this will be linked below for you. So there's that. All right, another one that I found while I was doing a little bit of my research that I had not heard about before was The Silence Factory, and this is by Bridget Collins. So it says this is going to be a gothic suspense about a powerful family, the magic and dangerous silk their fortune is built upon, and the excuse me, the exploitative history they are desperately trying to hide. So it looks like we are going to be based in 1820, on a remote Greek island. So it looks like, you know, we've got a little bit of like suspense, a little bit of magic involved, a little bit of historical. So it says it's going to be equally enthralling and unsettling, but it's a gothic story about complicity, desire, and corruption, a novel to lose yourself in. So it's kind of a story in a genre that I haven't read much before, but it caught my eye because it definitely sounds like it's going to be something different. So I wanted to add it to the list. After that, we have a book that, once again, I hadn't heard too much about, but this is called The Voyage of the Damned, and it's going to be a fantasy novel, and this is by Frances White. Now, this is claimed to be the TikTok sensation from the UK has come to North America. Like, that is in big, bold letters on this one. And it says, it's going to be a mind-blowing murder mystery on a ship full of magical passengers. But this is where you caught me. It says, if Agatha Christie wrote fantasy, this would be it. So I was like, Now, I don't read a ton of fantasy, but I did read, you know, Fourth Wing this year, and I will eventually pick up Iron Flame. So I was kind of like, okay, like, this could get me. Now, I didn't want to read like too much into the details of it because, like I said, I never like to, but I was like, that's a good way to like get my interest. So I definitely wanted to add that one to the list. After that, we have the second book this month coming out by Katie Contagno, and this is Heavy Hitter. So this is more on the adult side of things, and it says, this is going to be a smart, sexy, thrilling take on the celebrity athlete story. It's going to be a funny, sizzling, ripped from the headlines romance between an international pop star and a Major League Baseball player who thought his best days were behind him. So, you know, you're very standard like rom-com, but a little bit of the, you know, twist. So maybe slightly Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce-ish kind of idea. So we'll see how that one is. And then the final book that I found coming out on August 20th was A Season of Perfect Happiness, and this is by Mary Beth Fisher. And there is one certain reason that this book caught my eye as I was reading through the description, and I'm sure you'll catch it in just a second. But this says, fundamental questions, this questions what makes a good mother with a propulsive and heart-rending portrayal of one woman's efforts to find her voice. Now, she's fleeing Delaware, and she decides to find a quiet, tidy life in Wisconsin. And that there is why I decided to add it to my list, because I was like, and she picked it at random for its shape on a map. And if you know anything about Wisconsin, and my friends in Michigan will argue with me, but we do like to say that Wisconsin looks like a hand, and I know Michigan likes to say theirs looks like a mitten, so that one just made me giggle. So I had to add that one to the list. So those are all the books that I found coming out on August 20th. All right, we have finally reached our last August release date, and that is August 27th. Now, this one is not as long as some of our other release dates, but that does not mean they are any less important. And our first one is Daydream, and this is by Hannah Grace. And once again, this is part of a series. This is book 3 in the Maple Hills series. So I don't want to reveal too much about it, but this is going to be kind of a standard rom-com. And I believe it says it's going to follow the fan favorite Henry. So I'm assuming he comes up in some of the other books. So I think this would be one that you probably want to read in order if you are so interested in that. So that'll be linked below. Another one from an author that I see a lot about, but I don't believe I have read anything yet by. And this is Red River Road, and this is by Anna Downs. And it says it's going to be a thriller about a woman desperate to discover what happened to her sister on a solo road trip through the Australian outback. So interesting. And I'm wondering, I don't know if all of Anna Downs' books are based in Australia or not, but it says it's going to be a twist-filled journey into the dark side of solo female travel, which interests me because I do enjoy travel, and I've traveled alone before, even though my coworkers hate that I do that. And it's going to explore what drives us to keep searching for those we have lost, the family bonds that can make or break us, and the deception of memory. So, added that one. After that, we have another book in a series. I know. And this is book 3 in the International School series, and this is French Kissed by Chanel Cleeton. Now, I have read a lot of Chanel Cleeton's historical fiction books, but I have not read her more romance books. And it says, on the surface, she appears to have it all, if only the facade matched reality. Now, I won't read too much into it because it is book 3, but if you are interested in Chanel Cleeton's romance books, this one will be for you. All right, after that, we have a book that I believe I had talked about, a book by this author in a month previous. Maybe June, maybe July, I'm not sure. But this is Then Things Went Dark, and this is by Bea Fitzgerald. And it says, this is going to follow a cast of hot-headed contestants competing to prove themselves to an audience of millions. But with eyes following you everywhere, how can you hide your motive to kill? It says, the first episode is waiting. Are you ready to watch? It says, no murder has ever had more witnesses. So I'm very, very curious about that one. And if this is the same Bea Fitzgerald that I talked about before, yeah, it was. I think the book that she had previously written was more of a fantasy book. And so, because she was really popular on TikTok. So I am very curious to kind of see what she does with this one, because, thrillers are all along my alley. So there is that. The next one here is a YA pick by a YA author that I have seen a lot of books by him come out. I think I've only read one though. And this is One House Left by Vincent Ralph. And it says it's a next twisty horror book written by him. Ready or not, whatever you do, the hiding boy is coming for you. Now, we've had a lot of books come out with rhymes lately, and usually they're pretty good. And it looks like it's kind of going to be based on an urban legend. It says 16-year-old Nate Campbell grew up in the shadow of Murder Road, a street cursed by the vengeful spirit of the hiding boy. Every few years, for nearly 6 decades, a different house on that street has been the scene of a tragedy. Nate and his family move to a new town as they try to outrun the curse once and for all. But when he is pulled into his new friend's urban legend club, new ghost stories merge with old until there is nowhere left to run. So, yeah, definitely wanted to add that one to the list. That is the YA that is right up my alley. And then last, but certainly not least, for our list of August, I found Talking to Strangers, and this is by Fiona Barton. And it says Detective Elise King's investigation into a woman's murder is getting derailed by a reporter who insists on doing her own investigation in this nail-biting mystery. So, love a good book with some investigation like that. So, definitely wanted to add that one to the list. So, those are all of the books that I found coming out in the month of August. Like I said, and like I always say, this is by no means an extensive list. These are just the ones that caught my eye or things that I wanted to make sure that people knew about and that I just like to share. So, like I said, I am going to try to stay more consistent. I know things in my life have been a little changing, a little slow. My reading has been a little bit slow, but that's just the way it is. And like I said, it's been a good summer and I've been enjoying myself and life is just changing a bit. So thank you for joining me today. I always appreciate you having you here. If you know of any other good releases, please let us know in the comments below. As always, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.